When you hear the phrase schoolhouse bullying, I mean, your brain probably immediately jumps to kids, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You picture, like, a bigger kid taking lunch money on the playground.
Yeah.
Or maybe a group of mean girls whispering in the cafeteria.
Right. The classic movie tropes.
Exactly. But today, we are unpacking a source document titled Confronting the Architecture of Schoolhouse Bullying. And I have to tell you right out of the gate, this text is not about the students.
No, it's really not.
It is specifically outlining workplace bullying warning signs for schools. So this is entirely about the adults.
Yeah.
Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to uncover the hidden systemic workplace toxicity happening in the faculty lounges, the department meetings, the administrative offices. And we want to figure out how targets can actually protect themselves.
It is a really critical pivot in perspective because, well, we tend to have this collective blind spot when it comes to educators.
Yeah, we totally do.
Because their profession is fundamentally built on empathy, right? And nurturing and student development. So we naturally assume their professional interactions with each other must reflect those exact same values.
Right, like they're all just in the break room holding hands.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, schools are workplaces. They have entrenched hierarchies, they have complex power dynamics, scarce resources, and just immense pressure.
So much pressure.
And wherever those elements exist in combination, bullying can thrive just as easily as it does in a corporate boardroom.
And what immediately caught my eye in the source material wasn't just the behaviors it describes. It was the word it uses in the title to define them. Architecture.
Yes, the architecture of schoolhouse bullying.
Right. Not the habit, not the occurrence, but the architecture.
Which is a very deliberate word choice by the authors. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
When you use the term architecture, you are explicitly stating that this isn't accidental. Like a stray, mean comment in the hallway because a teacher hasn't had their coffee. That's an accident.
Right. We all have bad days.
Exactly. But architecture is constructed, it is structural, it is systemic.
It requires a blueprint.
A blueprint, a foundation, and builders who are working in tandem, whether they realize it or not. The text identifies a specific toxic blueprint. And our goal here is to understand how these destructive warning signs stack on top of each other to trap a target.
Okay, so to understand a structure that large and intimidating, we have to look at how the foundation is poured, right?
We do.
Like, how does workplace bullying in a school take root at the individual level before it becomes this massive, undeniable problem?
Well, the source text gives us our first structural warning sign, and it is a psychological one. Gaslighting.
Gaslighting, which honestly is the best way I could visualize this while reading the text. Imagine you're a teacher, right?
Okay, yeah.
And someone secretly moves the walls of your classroom inward by just 3 inches overnight.
Oh, wow. That's a great analogy.
You come in the next day, and things feel inexplicably cramped. The desks are touching differently. The whiteboard feels like way too close.
Right, something is just off.
Yeah. So you go to your principal or a senior colleague and say, hey, did something happen in my room? It feels smaller.
And what do they say?
They look at you with this profound pity and say, what are you talking about? It's the exact same size it's always been. Are you feeling okay? You've seemed really overwhelmed lately. Maybe you're just not handling the workload.
That captures the internal experience perfectly. It creates a profound dissonance between what you know to be true and what the authority figures around you are claiming is true. It's the necessary starting point for a systemic bully.
Because it shakes your confidence.
Right. It's the most insidious tactic because its entire purpose is to destabilize the ground the target is standing on.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more because I do want to push back on the terminology a bit here.
Okay, go ahead.
Gaslighting has become something of a cultural buzzword lately,
It definitely has. It's everywhere on social media.
Right. We usually hear it in the context of toxic romantic relationships or a controlling partner manipulating their spouse. So I struggled a bit to see how that specifically functions as a weapon of professional workplace bullying for, say, an 8th grade math teacher.
Well, that's a fair question. But the mechanics actually map over to a professional hierarchy remarkably well.
How so?
In a romantic relationship, the abuser is trying to control the narrative of the relationship to maintain dominance, right?
Right.
In a workplace, specifically a school, the bully, who might be a principal, a department head, or even just a dominant clique of tenured teachers, is trying to control the narrative of your professional competence.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
And education is uniquely vulnerable to this because it is often a highly subjective field.
Subjective how? Like, I mean, Grading is pretty objective, isn't it? Math is math.
Grading might be, sure, but
Okay.
how do you definitively measure a quote-unquote good educator overall?
Oh, I see what you mean.
It is not just test scores. It is classroom management, interpersonal skills with difficult students, parent communication, curriculum adaptability.
Right, there's a lot of gray area.
Exactly. And this subjectivity creates incredibly fertile ground for gaslighting. A bully can take a perfectly normal interaction you had with a challenging student and twist the narrative.
Like telling you in a performance review that you were inappropriately harsh.
Yes. Or that you are losing your touch with the kids.
And if you try to defend yourself and say, no, I was just enforcing the behavioral guidelines we all agreed on, they can easily spin that too.
Oh, absolutely. When you defend yourself, they pivot and tell you that you are being defensive.
Unbelievable.
They say you're rigid and unable to take constructive feedback. They weaponize the very language of professional development against you.
So they use the system's own jargon to tear you down.
Right. Before they can successfully isolate you from the rest of the group, they have to isolate you from your own sense of reality.
So it's about breaking down the target's internal defenses first.
Precisely. Because think about it. If you don't trust your own memory or your own perception of events or your own professional judgment, you become paralyzed.
You stop speaking up.
Yeah, you stop speaking up in department meetings because you start thinking, well, maybe I really don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe my ideas are as bad as they say.
That is so damaging.
It is. You stop advocating for your students and for yourself. You are fundamentally weakened, which makes the next stages of the architectural build that much easier to execute.
Okay, so they have poured this foundation of doubt. The target is unmoored. They're second-guessing their own sanity and professional worth.
Right.
But a foundation isn't a whole building. For this to become systemic, for it to be an actual architecture, the bully needs to bring in other people.
Yes, they do.
So how do they recruit the rest of the staff without looking like the obvious bad guy?
They do it gradually through
Yeah.
social conditioning, and the source text lays out the next structural phase clearly. Exclusion.
Right, exclusion. But honestly, when I read that, it initially just sounded like normal workplace drama.
I mean,
Like, not everyone has to be best friends with everyone else.
yeah.
You know? If a group of teachers doesn't invite one specific colleague to lunch, or they have a private group chat, I don't necessarily see how that equates to building an architecture of bullying. People just have cliques.
It's true, they do.
So how do we distinguish between organic distance and toxic exclusion?
It is a vital distinction to make. Organic distance is benign. It is simply a lack of chemistry between people.
Right, you just don't vibe.
Exactly. But toxic exclusion, in the context of this architecture, is strategic. It is a testing phase initiated by the primary bully.
A test.
Yes. They aren't just choosing not to eat lunch with you. They are systematically removing you from the flow of necessary information.
Oh, like leaving you off vital email chains.
Exactly. Email chains regarding curriculum changes. They forget to tell you that a staff meeting was moved. But more importantly, the bully is using exclusion to signal to the rest of the herd.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Signaling what? That this person is officially on the outs.
Yes, exactly that. They are sending a message to the rest of the faculty, basically saying, this person is no longer under the protection of the group. Let's see how you all respond.
Wow.
They are testing the waters to see if any colleagues will step up and defend the target or if they will remain compliant.
And I imagine in a high-stress environment like a school, a lot of people just keep their heads down.
Sadly, yes. And I want to be clear, it rarely stems from inherent malice on the part of the bystanders.
It's just self-preservation.
It is entirely self-preservation. In a school environment where tenure, preferred classroom assignments, and administrative support are critical to your daily survival, people are terrified of drawing the bully's attention.
That makes total sense.
So when they see a colleague being subtly excluded, they look the other way. They rationalize it to soothe their own conscience.
Like telling themselves the target brought it on themselves.
Exactly. They think, well, maybe that teacher is difficult to work with. I heard they were defensive in their last evaluation. I should probably keep my distance too, just to be safe.
That is deeply unsettling. Because the exclusion normalizes the isolation.
It does.
By doing nothing, the bystanders are effectively telling the bully, hey, we will allow this.
Yes.
Which brings us to the third warning sign the text identifies, which is mobbing. Going back to our building metaphor, if exclusion is having your key suddenly stop working for the teacher's lounge, well, mobbing feels entirely different.
It is entirely different.
Mobbing is like the entire faculty barricading the door from the inside and actively working to ensure you fail.
That escalation from passive exclusion to active mobbing is the point where the architecture becomes fully visible. Mobbing turns the school environment itself into hostile territory.
So how does a passive freeze-out turn into a full-on aggressive mob? I mean, it seems like a massive leap for a bunch of previously neutral bystanders to suddenly become active participants in trying to ruin someone's career.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it happens because the culture of complicity has been firmly established.
Wow.
Once the exclusion phase proves that the target has no defenders, the social cost of attacking them drops to zero.
Because everyone has implicitly agreed it's okay.
Right. Mobbing is an active, coordinated psychological attack by a group. But it doesn't always look like a movie scene of people shouting in a hallway.
Right.
In a school, it looks like administrative weaponization.
Administrative weaponization. What does that actually look like in practice?
Well, it requires a structure of complicity, like we said. It requires colleagues to suddenly start piling on with minor, exaggerated, or outright false complaints to the principal.
Oh, wow. Just a constant stream of write-ups.
Yes. It requires administrators to aggressively micromanage the target's lesson plans, dropping in for unannounced evaluations multiple times a week.
Which is terrifying for a teacher.
It is. It requires the group to deliberately withhold resources the target needs for their students. It is an entire professional ecosystem turning against one organism.
So the target isn't just fighting a single bad boss anymore.
No, not at all. They're fighting the entire social and professional structure of the institution.
It goes from feeling like you have a bad relationship with a coworker to feeling like the building itself is actively rejecting you.
That's exactly it.
And if you're already completely unmoored by the gaslighting and you're isolated by the exclusion, you are doxed in. The walls are built, the roof is on, and you are trapped inside.
You're stuck in the architecture.
Right. If I'm a target reading the source text, at this point, I am feeling completely hopeless.
Which is exactly why the source material doesn't end there. Recognizing the architecture is only half the battle.
Right. Thank goodness there's a solution part to this.
Yes. The text shifts quite dramatically from diagnosing the problem to providing a methodology for dismantling it.
Right. It points us toward a very specific resource named in the text called FG Own Your Power.
Yes.
And the text explicitly outlines two specific functions this tool facilitates for the target: to document and to respond.
Those two actions are the literal mechanism for tearing the structure down.
I was thinking about this in terms of our building analogy.
Well, let's hear it.
If the bullies are the ones constructing this architecture, then FG owns. Your power is like handing the target a structural engineer's toolkit.
I love that.
Instead of just suffering inside the building, the target becomes an objective inspector. They're walking through with a clipboard, taking high-resolution photos of the faulty, unpermitted wiring,
Yes.
noting the deliberate cracks in the foundation, and logging the code violations. They are gathering the empirical evidence that this building is unsafe.
I think that's a brilliant way to conceptualize it. You are transitioning from being a passive emotional victim trapped inside the structure to an objective evaluator operating outside of its psychological hold.
But practically speaking, I have a major question about the sequence here.
Okay, what is it?
So what does this all mean for the target? Why are documenting and responding paired together as a single process here? And why couldn't someone just respond to the mobbing in the moment?
This raises an important question.
Right, because if someone is actively trying to ruin my career, spreading rumors, or humiliating me in a staff meeting, my absolute first instinct is to fight back right then and there.
Of course it is.
If I just sit there and quietly take notes on a clipboard, aren't I letting them win in the moment? Why shouldn't a target just respond immediately and defend themselves?
It feels incredibly counterintuitive, I know. It feels deeply unfair to have to absorb the blow without returning it.
It really does.
But understanding why you must not react emotionally in the moment is the key to escaping the trap. Responding in the moment to gaslighting or mobbing is exactly what the architects of this bullying want you to do.
Wait, really? They want you to fight back? That doesn't make any sense. Don't they want you to just submit?
They want you to react in a way that validates their narrative. Remember the foundation, gaslighting.
Oh, right.
They have already been seeding the narrative to the administration and your colleagues that you are unstable, that you can't handle the pressure, that you are deeply unprofessional.
Oh, wow. I see where this is going.
If you snap in a staff meeting and yell at a colleague, or if you break down crying in the hallway, or if you fire off a furiously worded email at 11 p.m. defending yourself, You are handing them the exact evidence they need.
Oh, man. You're basically proving their point for them.
Precisely. They will take that furious email or the accounts of you yelling in the meeting and take it straight to HR or the school board.
And say, look how crazy this person is.
Exactly. They'll say, see, look how erratic and aggressive they are. We were entirely right to be concerned about their fitness to be in a classroom.
That is so incredibly manipulative.
It is. If you respond in the moment with emotion, you become an unwitting participant in your own professional demise. You are literally handing them the final bricks to wall you in.
So by documenting first, you are forcing yourself to remove the emotion from the equation entirely.
Yes. You are creating an objective record to combat subjective manipulation. Gaslighting relies entirely on a lack of evidence.
Right. It's just your word against theirs.
Yeah, exactly. It's their word against your memory. But if you have meticulous documentation well, that changes the power dynamic instantly.
What does that documentation actually look like day to day for a teacher?
It means that every time you are inexplicably excluded from a department meeting, you note the date, the time, and exactly who was present.
Just strictly the facts.
Only the facts. It means that every time an administrator micromanages you with contradictory instructions, you save the emails, BCC a personal account, and log the interaction. It is a chronological, emotionless ledger of the mobbing behaviors.
You are proving, with hard data, that the classroom walls really were moved. You have the exact measurements.
You have the measurements. And beyond just having evidence for a future case, doing this causes a profound internal shift for the target.
Really? How so?
The text calls the tool, own your power for a reason. When you stop reacting and start meticulously documenting, you stop feeling like you were losing your mind.
Because you can actually see it in black and white.
Yes. You look at your log and realize, I am not imagining this. I am not crazy. I have the data right here. It restores your sanity.
It has to be such a relief.
It is a massive relief. It is the literal mechanism of reclaiming the power that the gaslighting tried to steal from you.
So you shift from playing defense to playing offense.
Yeah.
But it's a quiet, strategic offense. You are just biding your time.
Exactly. And then, only when that foundation of documentation is rock solid do you move to the second step of the tool, respond.
And how do you respond?
Again, you aren't responding with an emotional outburst in the break room. You are responding strategically, formally, and with an undeniable chronological paper trail.
Right.
You present the entire architecture of their bullying to the necessary authorities. Whether that is an external school board, a union representative, or legal counsel, you force them to look at the blueprint.
You hand over that structural engineer's report and say, this building is condemned and here is exactly why.
Yes.
It's dismantling their toxic architecture with the crushing weight of undeniable reality.
It is the only way to successfully tear it down without destroying yourself in the process.
Man, what an intense but ultimately incredibly practical journey this source text has taken us on today.
It really is a powerful document.
Let's do a quick recap of where we've been, because we covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
We started by dismantling the assumption that schools are inherently wholesome environments, recognizing that they can harbor deeply toxic adult workplaces.
Right.
We mapped out the hidden architecture of that bullying, starting with the psychological foundation of doubt planted by gaslighting.
The first brick.
Yeah. And then we saw how that control mechanism scales up, using the quiet weapon of exclusion to isolate the target and signal the herd, which ultimately leads to the aggressive, coordinated weight of mobbing by the wider community.
Yes, the whole structure.
And finally, we explored the solution, how utilizing a resource like FG Own Your Power allows a target to stop playing into the bully's hands emotionally, objectively document the abuse, and strategically respond to tear that toxic structure down.
It is such a vital roadmap, and I think it's important to speak directly to you, the listener, as we close this out.
Absolutely.
Because whether you work in an educational setting surrounded by chalkboards, or you work in a corporate office, a hospital, or a retail environment, the mechanics of power and manipulation we've discussed today are completely universal.
They really are. Bullies are everywhere.
They are. Understanding these structural warning signs, recognizing the subtle dissonance of gaslighting before it takes root, spotting the strategic shifts of exclusion before it becomes full-blown mobbing, that is the first, most crucial step in protecting your own professional reality and peace of mind.
For sure.
You have the fundamental right to a safe workplace, and you have the power to document, evaluate, and defend that right.
I couldn't agree more. It all comes down to vigilance and self-advocacy. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder that builds on everything we've talked about. We spent all this time talking about how individual targets can use tools like FG Own Your Power to document and respond to these deeply entrenched behaviors to save themselves.
Right.
But think about the collective long-term impact of this. If enough people stop accepting mobbing and exclusion as just the way things are, and instead consistently present undeniable, documented proof of this toxic blueprint to school boards and HR departments across the country,
Yeah.
could the ultimate outcome be forcing those administrations to use that exact same documentation to design an entirely new architecture?
Oh, that's a fascinating thought.
Not an architecture of bullying, but a permanent architecture of accountability.
That is the ultimate goal, isn't it? A system that protects the foundation rather than eroding it.
It changes everything.
Yeah.
Because we need the adults running these spaces to be as healthy and supported as we expect the students to be.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden structures around us. Keep questioning the blueprints you see. Trust your reality, and remember to own your power.